Envision a tomb that has remained hidden from the world for thousands of years. The tomb remains tightly sealed, untouched, and enveloped in enigma. One of the most revered figures in history is believed to possess this tomb: the Virgin Mary, Mother of Jesus. For centuries, there's been a tug-of-war over the truth about Mary's life and death. Did she die peacefully, like some believe? Or was she simply taken up to heaven, body and soul? In this moment, as scientists stare into the eerie emptiness of her tomb, the biggest question of all was, could this discovery prove any of those stories to be true? To Christians, Mary is an enduring symbol of love, sacrifice, and holiness. But she also holds a special place in the hearts of people from many different religions. Christians and Muslims alike revere her as a symbol of purity and devotion. This is why discovering her tomb was a monumental moment, one that could unite people across beliefs, or challenge what they've held sacred for centuries. After the death of Jesus, stories about Mary's final days spread far and wide. But each story was a little different depending on who you asked. Catholics believe Mary never died at all. They say she ascended straight to heaven, alive and untouched by death. Eastern Christians, however, believe she did die, but came back to life before ascending. Then there are the stories from far-off places like India, which suggest she lived out her days in secrecy, far from Jerusalem. With so many conflicting tales, no one could be certain of the truth, until scientists recently uncovered this mysterious tomb, offering a new piece to the puzzle. When the news broke, it was like a spark in the dark, igniting curiosity all over the world. People were eager to learn if this tomb would reveal any relics, clues, or ancient writings that might finally settle the debate. But instead, it only deepened the mystery. And now, as experts pore over this strange discovery, they're finding themselves both captivated and haunted by the mystery, by questions they never expected to ask. So what could an empty tomb possibly mean? How did they seal and hide it in the Kidron Valley, surrounded by some of Christianity's most sacred sites, waiting for the right moment to uncover it? These aren't just questions for historians or archaeologists. They're questions that touch something deeper, something that reminds us how much of our past remains unknown. Mary's life and legacy hold a sacred place in the hearts of millions across the world, transcending borders, beliefs, and centuries. From the 5th century onward, her life has inspired devotion, prayer, and countless traditions, uniting people in a shared reverence for her. Yet, just as Mary brings people together, her story is also one of mystery and deep cultural divides. People disagree on where she died, what happened to her body, and even if she ever died at all. These contrasting beliefs create a tapestry of interpretations and practices, each with its own beauty, reverence, and mystery. But it's also a story that keeps believers on edge, as if they're holding on to a sacred secret with no clear answers. According to their belief, Mary did experience death. In fact, they say she was buried, only to be miraculously resurrected on the 3rd day, like Jesus, before she ascended to heaven. They call this the dormition of Mary, meaning her falling asleep. Eastern Orthodox and Eastern Catholic traditions honor this belief with a feast day on August 15th. But to them, it's not the same as the Catholic belief in the Assumption. To Eastern Christians, the dormition symbolizes Mary's death and her journey to heaven afterward, a sign of her sacredness, but also her human nature. Despite not being official dogma, their teachings deeply revere this interpretation of Mary's life. Meanwhile, in Catholicism, a very different story about Mary took shape over the centuries. Catholics subscribe to the Assumption of Mary doctrine, which posits that Mary's unique purity as the mother of Jesus transported her directly to heaven, body and soul. This idea became so widely accepted in Catholicism that in 1950, Pope Pius XV formally declared it as an official teaching, known as a dogma. He published a document named Munificentissimus Deus on November 1st, 1950, firmly asserting that Mary ascended to heaven without experiencing corruption. To many Catholics, this dogma represents her holiness, but it also sets Mary apart as someone who escaped death's grip, a belief that many hold with awe and devotion. But these two powerful interpretations are just the beginning. Some parts of the world tell Mary's story with even more unexpected twists. For instance, some groups hold the belief that Mary left Jerusalem after Jesus' death. The Turkmen Karaites hold a Nestorian tradition that asserts Mary's final resting place is not in Jerusalem, but in Turkmenistan, specifically in a town named Mary. In what some consider the forgotten lands of Christianity, she is believed to have spent her last days. Similarly, the Ahmadiyya movement, an Islamic sect, holds the belief that Mary journeyed to Pakistan, laying her body to rest at a location they refer to as Mai Marida Ashtan. Though these beliefs aren't part of mainstream Christianity, they show how far-reaching and diverse Mary's legacy truly is. However, modern practices and rituals, celebrated with devotion, reflect these interpretations, which extend beyond ancient stories. August 15th, for instance, is a significant day on both Catholic and Eastern Orthodox calendars. For Catholics, it's the Feast of the Assumption, marking Mary's ascent into heaven. In the Eastern Orthodox tradition, it's the Day of the Dormition, observed with a 14-day fasting period leading up to the celebration. During this time, Orthodox believers honor Mary's life with strict fasting from certain foods, sexual abstinence, and an atmosphere of solemnity. Then, on August 15th, they celebrate her life and her falling asleep, filling churches with prayers, candle lighting, and hymns. Even within Catholicism, beliefs about Mary's Assumption can differ subtly. Some Catholics subscribe to an interpretation known as the moralistic view, which affirms Mary's death and her miraculous resurrection just prior to her Assumption. Others subscribe to the immortalistic view, asserting that Mary's ascension occurred without her death. These interpretations, though not in conflict with each other, allow Catholics some flexibility in how they understand Mary's journey to heaven. St. Pope John Paul II was a prominent voice for the mortalistic belief, which has, in recent years, gained a quiet but notable influence among some Catholic communities. Even Protestant traditions, which generally reject the idea of Mary's bodily assumption, have varying opinions on her significance. While many Protestants view Mary with high regard as the mother of Jesus, they do not celebrate her Assumption. However, Anglicans, especially within the Anglo-Catholic tradition, have reintroduced Mary's feast day in recent centuries, celebrating it in a more symbolic sense on August 15th. In these services, they honor Mary as a blessed woman without necessarily affirming the Assumption itself. Countries like the United States, Canada, and various Anglican provinces have adopted this practice, remembering Mary without questioning her physical ascension. Mary's story is remarkable because her memory transcends Christianity. Islam deeply honors Mary, known as Maryam, as the mother of Jesus Isa. The Quran frequently mentions her as a pure, devoted servant of God. Muhammad himself, according to Islamic tradition, saw a vision of Mary's tomb in Ur's tomb near the Dome of the Rock. According to some Islamic accounts, Mary surrounded herself with light, symbolizing her unique status among holy women. In each of these traditions, Mary's story serves as a powerful unifier, an enduring figure that brings together vastly different beliefs. Her memory, celebrated around the world in unique and sacred ways, is a testament to her enduring influence. But at the same time, her story is also a divider, with each community interpreting her life and death through its own sacred lens. As we continue exploring the mysteries of Mary's life and her mysterious tomb, one thing is clear: Mary's legacy remains as complex and diverse as ever. A story of both unity and mystery that continues to resonate across cultures, beliefs, and centuries. In the world of archaeology, unearthing an ancient site typically involves analyzing artifacts, bones, and relics, piecing together the story of the past through physical evidence. But Mary's tomb didn't follow the usual pattern. There were no remains, no belongings, and no trace of the Virgin herself. This empty chamber presented an unsettling reality to scientists. Either they needed to rethink everything they knew about Mary's life and death, or perhaps, just perhaps, they had stumbled upon evidence that reinforced the age-old belief in her assumption to heaven. For believers, this scientific discovery was like a validation of their faith, a modern-day sign that echoed the teachings they'd held dear for centuries. According to Catholic doctrine, Mary's assumption, or her ascent into heaven without decay, is a fundamental belief. Declared dogma by Pope Pius XIII in 1950, the assumption remains a central tenet of faith for millions of Catholics worldwide. In a way, the empty tomb felt like a small miracle, a symbol that science and faith were not at odds but instead intertwined, each illuminating the other in unexpected ways. One could not measure, carbon date, or catalog the tomb's emptiness. It simply was. Its silence seemed to speak to something science couldn't capture. To understand this unique intersection of faith and scientific, consider the technology and methods that went into exploring Mary's tomb. Using advanced imaging equipment, scientists examined the walls and surrounding rock, looking for any hint of hidden chambers, inscriptions, or markings that could offer clues. Scientists used ground-penetrating radar to scan beneath the surface, but found no unusual relics or hidden artifacts. They even tested the air quality and stone composition, hoping that some element might reveal a hint of its history. But the results were uniformly inconclusive, leaving scientists in the uncomfortable position of finding no evidence in a place where history and faith had promised so much. But this tension between science and faith is not new. For centuries, people have sought proof of the divine, searching for ways to reconcile their spiritual beliefs with the material world. For instance, despite endless analysis, debate, and testing, neither science nor faith has been able to fully claim the truth of the Shroud of Turin, a cloth believed to bear the image of Jesus. Similarly, the discovery of Mary's empty tomb has become another focal point in this age-old dance, a place where science and faith meet but do not necessarily agree. The idea that Mary might have ascended to heaven without leaving a physical trace is one that resonates deeply with believers, while challenging scientists to consider the limits of their field. And while some archaeologists and historians may dismiss the empty tomb as inconclusive or irrelevant, others see it as an invitation to keep searching, to broaden the scope of their work, and to remain open to possibilities that cannot always be proved. This perspective isn't exclusive to Christianity. In Islam, too, the merging of scientific inquiry and faith has led to remarkable discoveries and insights. The Quran speaks highly of Mary, emphasizing her purity and devotion, and Islamic scholars have long regarded her as a model of holiness. Some Islamic texts describe her tomb near the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, suggesting that it is a place of unique reverence. Here, too, the lines between science and faith blur as believers honor her memory in ways that blend historical fact with spiritual significance. If you're enjoying this journey into the mysteries of history and faith, consider supporting our channel by clicking the Super Thanks button. By contributing, you're helping us keep exploring these incredible stories, uncovering hidden truths, and sharing them with you. Believers may view Mary's empty tomb as a modern confirmation of their faith, a sign that the stories of her assumption or dormition hold a divine truth that science cannot prove or disprove. For skeptics, it might stand as a historical curiosity, a puzzle without enough pieces to complete. But in either case, the discovery raises important questions about how we approach the unknown and what we expect from the mysteries of our past. Consider the countless stories that have emerged around Mary's life and death. From her miraculous birth of Jesus to her assumed place in heaven, her story touches on some of the most fundamental questions of human existence: life, death, faith, and what might lie beyond. Different cultures and religions interpret her story in unique ways, but there is an underlying reverence that ties them together, showing that Mary's legacy has a universal appeal. Whether celebrated in the Catholic tradition, honored in Eastern Orthodoxy, or deeply respected in Islamic teachings, her life story resonates as a symbol of hope and holiness. And now her empty tomb has only deepened that resonance, prompting people to reflect on their own beliefs and how they connect to the mysteries of the past. This discovery doesn't just touch on religious history, it calls us to think about the nature of belief itself. This empty tomb has become a focal point, not only for what it reveals, but also for what it conceals, pushing us to ponder if the search for truth sometimes lies in the willingness to embrace the unknown. The story of Mary's tomb will likely continue to evolve, with each layer of research adding new perspectives while leaving others untouched. Perhaps its inherent beauty lies in its reluctance to conform, a tale that defies complete resolution. In essence, Mary's life and her empty tomb serve as a timeless invitation to wonder. A reminder that despite the vastness of human knowledge, it's best to leave some mysteries to inspire rather than explain. Mary's empty tomb leaves us with a message that goes beyond words. A quiet, timeless call to marvel at the mysteries we may never fully grasp, and to find meaning in the spaces where faith and history meet, holding both in a respectful silence. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel until the next video.